Have you ever wondered why some people seem to pick up English so easily, while others struggle for years? The secret is not in memorizing endless grammar rules, and it's not in writing thousands of vocabulary lists. The secret is in listening. When you listen, your brain absorbs the rhythm, the sounds, and the natural flow of English. Without even realizing it, you begin to recognize words faster. You begin to connect meaning with sound, and step by step, English becomes part of you. And that's exactly what this video is about. You don't have to study English in a boring way. You can simply listen to a story, an inspiring story, and your brain will do the work for you. Today, you will hear about a woman who changed the world of fashion forever. A woman who started with nothing. A woman who faced rejection, humiliation, and doubt, yet rose to become one of the most powerful names in history. Her name is Coco Chanel. But before we dive in, let me ask you, have you ever had a dream that nobody believed in? Have you ever been told you can't do something, that you're not good enough, that your background, your money, your situation makes it impossible? If you've ever felt that way, then you will understand Coco Chanel's journey. And as you listen to her story, I want you to remember one thing. If she could overcome all obstacles, so can you. If she could create a life beyond imagination, you can achieve your dreams too, including learning English. So, lean back, relax, and listen carefully. Every word you hear will help your English grow stronger. The early life of Coco Chanel. Coco Chanel was not born into luxury. In fact, her childhood was far from glamorous. She was born in 1883 in a small town in France, to a very poor family. Her real name was not even Coco. It was Gabrielle Bonheur Chanel. Her father was a street vendor. He traveled from town to town, selling clothes and goods, often leaving his children behind. Her mother worked hard, but life was cruel. When Gabrielle was only 12 years old, tragedy struck. Her mother died of illness. Imagine being 12 years old, losing your mother, and being abandoned by your father. What would you do? Most children would break. Most children would give up. But Gabrielle was different. Her father placed her in an orphanage, run by strict nuns. The orphanage was cold, hard, and disciplined. The young Gabrielle had almost nothing. No fancy clothes, no soft toys, no loving family. But she had two things that would change her life, a needle and thread. The nuns taught her how to sew. At first, it was just a way to survive. But little by little, sewing became her skill, her passion, and eventually, her destiny. Now, think about this for a moment. Coco Chanel, the woman who would later dress the world's most powerful women, learned her craft in a silent orphanage, surrounded by discipline and loneliness. Doesn't that sound unbelievable? And here is where I want you to pause and reflect. Sometimes the darkest places in our life prepare us for the brightest future. Nobody in that orphanage believed that Gabrielle would one day rule the fashion world. But she believed in herself. And just like her, you must believe in yourself when you study English. Even if nobody supports you, even if people say you can't do it, you can. A nickname that would change everything. When Gabrielle grew older, she tried to escape the limits of her life. She worked as a seamstress during the day, and in the evenings, she sang in cafes. Her voice was not extraordinary, but her energy and charm made people notice her. One of the songs she often sang included the words, "Qu'est-ce que tu Coco?" Who has seen Coco? The audience began calling her Coco. At first, it was just a playful nickname. But Gabrielle embraced it. She would no longer be the abandoned child from the orphanage. She would become Coco Chanel, a name that sounded unique, mysterious, and unforgettable. This is another lesson for us. You don't have to accept the label the world gives you. You can create your own identity. You can decide who you want to be. And as you learn English, remember, every new word, every new phrase, is a step toward your new identity, a more confident, capable, international version of yourself. Coco Chanel's life began to change when she moved to the city of Paris. Paris, even back then, was the center of art, fashion, and dreams. But for a young woman with no money, no family, and no connections, Paris was also a city of challenges. Imagine walking through the streets of Paris with nothing but ambition in your heart. No rich parents. No famous last name. Just the burning belief that you could become something more. That was Coco. She worked as a seamstress and sometimes depended on the support of wealthy men who admired her charm. But unlike many women of her time, she refused to be just a companion. Coco wanted independence. She wanted freedom. She wanted to create. And here is another lesson for us. When you study English, you may feel like you are walking through the busy streets of Paris, surrounded by people who seem ahead of you. But if you keep going, step by step, your persistence will lead you to success. The first hat shop. Coco Chanel began her fashion career not with dresses, but with hats. At that time, women's hats were enormous, heavy, and overloaded with feathers, flowers, and decorations. They were uncomfortable and impractical. Coco saw something different. She believed elegance was found in simplicity. She created hats that were lighter, cleaner, and modern. At first, people laughed. They said her hats were too plain. But slowly, women began to notice. Her designs were not only stylish, they gave women freedom. For the first time, women could wear hats that did not feel like a cage on their heads. And in this small detail, Coco Chanel was already changing the world. Her first shop opened with the help of a wealthy admirer, but the real success came from her vision. Customers who wore her hats felt different, freer, more confident, more powerful. And once again, let me remind you, sometimes small steps lead to great revolutions. Just as Coco began with simple hats before creating a fashion empire, you can begin with simple English words before speaking fluently. Every word you learn is like one of Coco's hats, small but powerful. But success did not come easily. For every woman who loved her hats, there were many critics. The fashion world was dominated by traditional designers, mostly men, who did not want a poor orphan girl from the countryside to rise among them. People whispered, "Who does she think she is? She has no background, no training, no right to be in fashion." Have you ever heard similar voices in your life? You're not good at languages. You'll never be fluent. English is too hard for you. These voices of doubt exist everywhere. But just like Coco Chanel ignored them, you must ignore them too. Coco did not stop. She worked harder. She observed women, studied their needs, and created designs that were practical, comfortable, and stylish. Her mission was clear. Fashion should not be a prison. Fashion should be freedom. The first clothing store. By 1910, Coco opened her first clothing boutique in Paris. At first, it was small and simple, but soon, her reputation grew. Women loved her dresses because they were different. While other designers made heavy, uncomfortable clothes, Coco created lighter fabrics, looser shapes, and elegant lines that allowed women to move. She was not just designing clothes. She was designing a new way of life. And this is where another hook comes in. Can you imagine what it felt like for women back then, to suddenly wear clothes that allowed them to breathe, to walk freely, to live without restriction? It was revolutionary. Coco Chanel's true breakthrough came with something so simple, so ordinary, that nobody had thought of it before. She introduced the idea of the little black dress. Before Chanel, black was considered the color of mourning, the color of sadness. Nobody wore black for elegance. But Coco transformed it. She showed that black could be chic, powerful, and timeless. And the world changed. The little black dress became a symbol of sophistication. It was not only fashionable, it was democratic. Any woman, rich or poor, could wear it and look elegant. Coco had created a masterpiece that crossed social boundaries. This is a lesson for English learners too. Sometimes, what seems simple can be the most powerful. A simple phrase like, "How are you?" or "Can you help me?" can open doors to conversations, friendships, and opportunities. Do not underestimate the power of simplicity. At this point, let me remind you, Coco Chanel was not born with privilege. She was not born with money or connections. She built her empire from courage, creativity, and persistence. And you, listening to this story, can do the same in your life. Maybe your goal is not to create fashion. Maybe your goal is to master English. But the principle is the same. If you believe in yourself, work consistently, and never give up, success will come. A growing empire. By the 1920s, Coco Chanel was no longer just a hat maker or a small boutique owner. She was becoming an empire. Her designs were worn by actresses, aristocrats, and women who wanted to be seen as modern and independent. Paris was buzzing with her name. The Chanel look became a symbol of freedom and elegance. No more heavy corsets, no more uncomfortable gowns. Instead, women wore soft fabrics, straight cuts, and practical yet stylish clothes. Coco once said, "Luxury must be comfortable, otherwise it is not luxury." That simple idea changed everything. Think about it. She was not only selling clothes. She was selling confidence, independence, and a new vision of what it meant to be a woman. And here's the hook for you. What if the same is true with English? What if the real power of English is not in showing off big words, but in feeling free to express yourself comfortably and naturally? Chanel No. 5, the scent of success. In 1921, Coco introduced something that would forever change the perfume industry, Chanel No. 5. At that time, perfumes were usually just one flower scent, like rose or jasmine. But Coco wanted something new. She worked with a perfumer to create a fragrance that was complex, mysterious, and unforgettable. Chanel No. 5 was born. It was the first perfume to mix multiple layers of scents in such a way that it felt modern, elegant, and unique. When women wore Chanel No. 5, they didn't just smell good, they felt powerful. And soon, it became the most famous perfume in the world. Even today, almost a century later, it remains a legend. Lesson: great ideas are timeless. And your effort in learning English will also last. Every hour you spend listening, every moment you spend practicing, builds a foundation that will stay with you for life. The storm of war. But history is never simple. Success always meets challenges. In the 1930s, Europe moved toward chaos. When World War II broke out, Coco Chanel's world turned upside down. Many businesses closed, and Paris was occupied by German forces. Chanel shut down most of her shops. Her decisions during the war were controversial. She had connections with German officers, and some accused her of collaboration. These years remain a dark and debated chapter in her story. Now let's pause. Why do I tell you this? Because even great people, even legends, have moments of mistakes, shadows, and doubt. Nobody's path is perfect. And that's another hook for you. If Coco Chanel could survive the darkest war in modern history and still rise again, then what excuse do we have to give up on our dreams? After the war, many thought Chanel's career was finished. She was criticized, judged, and even boycotted. The fashion world moved on. Younger designers were taking the spotlight. But Coco was not finished. She was not ready to disappear. In 1954, at the age of 71, when most people retire, Chanel came back with a new collection. The critics were cruel at first. They said her designs were outdated. But soon, women rediscovered what they loved about her clothes: elegance, comfort, and freedom. She reintroduced her famous Chanel suit, a jacket and skirt made of soft tweed fabric, with clean lines and a feminine yet powerful look. This suit became iconic. Women who wore it felt confident, modern, and unstoppable. And once again, Coco proved that resilience is stronger than criticism. Let me remind you here, age does not matter. Mistakes do not matter. What matters is the courage to start again. When you feel stuck with English, when you feel like you're too old, too late, or not talented enough, think of Coco Chanel at 71 years old, launching a comeback that changed fashion forever. If she could do it, so can you. At this stage of the story, Coco Chanel had faced poverty, orphanhood, rejection, war, and criticism. And yet, she rose again and again. So let me ask you, what is stopping you from learning English? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Is it lack of time? Remember, those are just excuses. Coco Chanel had 100 reasons to quit, But she didn't. And because she didn't, the world remembers her name. You don't need the world to remember your name, but you do need to believe in yourself. English can open doors to better jobs, new friendships, global opportunities. It can give you freedom. Just like Coco gave freedom to women through her clothes, English can give freedom to you through communication. The later years of Coco Chanel. By the 1960s, Coco Chanel was a living legend. She had survived poverty, rejection, war, and criticism, yet her influence was stronger than ever. Young women admired her not only for her designs, but also for her courage and independence. She was often seen in her signature look, a simple suit, pearls around her neck, and that unshakable confidence in her eyes. Even as she aged, she never lost her determination. She kept working, designing, and shaping the fashion world until the very end of her life. Coco Chanel once said, "Don't spend time beating on a wall, hoping to transform it into a door." In other words, don't waste your energy on the impossible. Create new possibilities. This is exactly what she did. And it's exactly what you can do with English. Don't keep struggling with old habits that don't work. Don't keep memorizing grammar rules endlessly, hoping they will magically make you fluent. Instead, listen, absorb, practice naturally, and create a new door to fluency. Her lasting impact. Coco Chanel passed away in 1971 in her apartment at the Hotel Ritz in Paris. She was 87 years old, but her spirit never died. Her name lives on in every Chanel store, in every perfume bottle of Chanel No. 5, in every elegant suit and handbag that carries her vision of freedom and style. She didn't just design clothes. She designed a movement. She redefined femininity, confidence, and elegance. She gave women the courage to move differently, to speak differently, to live differently. Think about that. An orphan girl with nothing but sewing skills changed the way the entire world dressed. If Coco Chanel could transform her weakness into strength, then you can transform your hesitation in English into confidence. The philosophy of simplicity. One of Coco's greatest lessons was simplicity. She believed that true elegance is not about excess, but about clarity. Her little black dress was simple. Her suits were simple. Her perfumes were simple in appearance, but complex in effect. And isn't that the same with language? You don't need the longest words to sound intelligent. You don't need complicated grammar to communicate effectively. What you need is clarity, confidence, and authenticity. So when you speak English, don't be afraid of being simple. Don't worry about being perfect. Remember Coco's philosophy. Simplicity is the key to elegance. Courage to be different. Coco was different, and she was not afraid of it. While others followed tradition, she broke the rules. While others doubted her, she pushed forward. She once said, "In order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different." This is powerful advice for you too. Don't compare your English to others. Don't try to sound exactly like a native speaker from the movies. Be yourself. Be unique. Your English is your voice, your identity. And that uniqueness will make you irreplaceable. The legacy of Coco Chanel. Coco Chanel's life was a story of transformation. From an orphan girl in a small French town, she became one of the most influential women in the world. She faced poverty, rejection, war, and criticism. And yet, she left a legacy that continues to inspire millions. Her life teaches us that greatness does not come from comfort. It comes from courage. It comes from persistence. And it comes from believing in yourself when nobody else does. Remember these key lessons from Coco Chanel. Believe in yourself, even when nobody else does. Turn challenges into opportunities. Start small, but think big. Embrace simplicity. Clarity is power. Be unique, and your voice will be irreplaceable. Whenever you feel discouraged, think of her, a young girl abandoned in an orphanage, who used a needle and thread to sew her way into history. If she could achieve greatness, so can you. So here's my challenge to you. Keep listening. Even if you don't understand every word, your brain is absorbing patterns. Practice speaking. Repeat phrases, mimic pronunciation, and don't fear mistakes. Believe in yourself. If an orphan girl became a global icon, you can become fluent in English. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story and want to continue learning English with inspiring tales, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications.